Hamilton, always a pleasure to have you in the studios. I have to ask you to leave now as we prepare the studios for Russell Crowe, who will be joining me just after the news. Joined, finally, by Russell Crowe. Great to have you in, Russ.
Howdy do, boys.
Mate, a bit of a struggle getting in. You should have ridden your pushy.
Well, you just, you insisted on sending a car and all of that highfalutin rubbish.
Yeah,
You should have just let me ride my bike.
You got a pushy. You get out there in a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I like riding a mountain bike,
When you get around on your bike, do you get recognised more or less?
It's the oddest thing, and I don't really understand it because, I'm riding around on a bicycle. I wear a skull cap. I wear wrapping round shades. I wear, the old Nuff helmet. The only thing that's actually on display is my chin, which is quite, majority of the time covered in a beard.
Yeah.
And any intersection I stop at, somebody will say, Rusty.
Wow.
Like, what are you recognising?
Because
the tip of my nose. Or something.
You dress like a speed dealer, but with a bike. And they still recognise you. Mate, it's great to have you here. I saw that you just stopped through the corridor there to have a quick chat to the boys from the Dead Set Legends. Mick Ennis was there. Have a quick chat about footy before you came in.
Tone.
But, mate, congratulations.
Actually, what I did was I gave Mick a very positive critique on how he's coming across on TV at the moment. I think he's doing a really good job.
Yeah.
I think his opinions are nice and clear, and he quite often will just stay on a particular line instead of going with the group. So I think he's doing really well.
Mate, that's incredible given that you stopped there for about 30 seconds, just come by and just gone, flying critique. Okay, great stuff on telly. Really like what you're doing there. That's good. Stay on point. I've got to go to see Merrick. Bye.
Me and Tone talked about a restaurant that I recommended for him in Bronte, and he went to, and he said he agreed. It's a good cafe.
Mate, you can get a lot done.
A lot done in 30 seconds, mate.
Get a lot done in 30 seconds. Food reviews, sports reviews, it's all there. Mate, congratulations on The Mummy. I went and saw it on Monday, and I've already said to you, it's a brilliant film. It's great. It's come off really, really well. Cool. You pleased? Because you only went to the premiere. The first time you saw it was on Monday night.
Yeah, I usually have a thing where I like to see it by myself because I have a response like Pavlov's dogs to what I've done, and some line will come up on the screen, and you sort of go into a character. So you like to do that by yourself, Do
you see something you're kind of unhappy with in your own performance, or something you're wrapped with? Do you critique yourself?
It's more that you go into the same emotional band that you're in.
Yeah, okay.
When you did it, because like just a certain line or whatever will trigger that. So normally I like to do that by myself.
Yeah, for good reason too.
People watching me or whatever. But it was just so much fun. I made a deal with my kids that, okay, I haven't seen it, so I'll see it with you, so we'll all be seeing it at the same time.
And what do they think? Did they love it?
Well, my little one he got a couple of electric shocks through the course of the film because there's a couple of scary bits.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a horror film, Rusty.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there thinking, such a bad father. And but my eldest one, he actually hasn't said anything. And believe it or not, when you have a 13-year-old who has an opinion on everything, 13 going on 42 and cannot be corrected, cannot be wrong, he hasn't actually said anything. So that I'm taking as a hugely positive sign because I was watching him watch the movie and he was digging it,
Yep.
And I was thinking the difference. My little one's getting electric shocks, but my eldest one's going.
Do they critique your work? Do they,
oh yeah.
And what do they say? Is it are they at that age where they will try to placate you or try to make you feel good about your own acting work, even though you're quite established and quite accomplished?
Yeah,
because you're the dad first, critic second.
Yeah, but you obviously don't have a 13-year-old.
No, not yet. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, no, they are very clear about the ones that they like and the ones they don't like so much or whatever. I try to get them into the ones that are more appropriate. And they just don't want to know about that stuff. Yeah, I think they have their favourites, and but it's not like an obsession with them. They don't, my little one would much rather watch stuff about South Sydney than he would about my movies.
Just get shushed out. I'm watching the footy.
Mate, I get it all the time.
Really? What about if you're watching the footy? Because there's a thing with my family. When I'm watching the footy, I can get quite fired up and get quite animated. And my kids just sort of go, "Oh, Dad's being a bit animated. Just move away from." Do you get animated when you're watching the footy?
I kind of learnt quite a while ago because I used to do all of those normal expressions of a footy fan at the game. But of course, unlike with you or you necessarily the game, my ones ended up on the front page of the Telegraph.
Yeah.
So when you're doing things like like this, or, Or like
the
that.
killing
It's like,
gestures.
oh, yeah. So I learned from
Just wear the bike helmet to the game.
from the player's perspective. Yeah, they want to know that you're passionate and you're into it and all that sort of stuff, but they don't want to necessarily see that.
Yeah.
You know. And also with my kids, I do have to be careful because I'll rave like I've got Tourette's. You know. And when you've got some of the things that go on during a rugby league game, it's like, you know, off go. So I'm careful not to, get too
animated.
over the top.
In my house, we have this thing that we've explained to our kids that they're daddy's work words, and daddy has to use them for work. So my kids never swear because they just go, "That's dad's work." I mean, what do we want to do? Work? No, we want to be kids, so we won't use his words. Mate, speaking of work, the mummy, I mean, obviously there's a lot of work gone into it, but no doubt with every project you always take something new or something that, you know, you can kind of look back on and think, wow, that was a great thing that I did or I learnt or I experienced whilst making that particular film. What was it with the mummy that you went, that was cool?
Well, just getting to work with Tom, you know, having been mates with him since about 92, you know, and having many conversations over the years about, you know, doing something together. And, you know, the sort of thing that came up first when I wasn't fully established, because, you know, I met him very early on, really, you know, and the coolest thing when I met him, man, he'd actually seen Romper Stomper, he'd seen Proof. Nicole Kidman had got him into the habit of watching independent Australian film. So he was, Tom Cruise, the biggest movie star in the world at the time, was asking me about my work, you know, in that first conversation. That was pretty cool. But just getting to actually work with him, you know, because there was this sort of a cliche idea at the beginning there, you know, because, you know, he's the hero, so I'd be a bad guy in one of those sort of movies, and it didn't really interest me, you know what I mean? I was more interested in a sort of a Butch and Sundance kind of thing, you know, but it never really came along. And this one, you know, we don't really know with this film exactly what is the good and the evil that's going on. Things are a little bit, you know, less clear than that. You know?
Yeah, that's why the film's great, because it's not predictable. It's not easy to say, oh, this is not a by numbers kind of film.
And it just allowed me to, you know, take on an historic character, bring it into another world, you know, but then just actually having the pleasure of working off Thomas. There's a very good reason that he's a big movie star. He's
a super professional.
Yeah, but he's a great actor too.
Yeah.
You know, people forget with all the big Mission Impossibles and all that sort of stuff, you know, you've still got the Born on the 4th of July sort of performance, you know, the Rain Man performance. And that's always the thing, you know, Dustin Hoffman got all the reviews for that and all the kudos and what have you. But if Tom hadn't been so believable as his character, then Dustin would have had way less to bounce off, you know. So he's just a good actor, you know. And just having fun with him, man, you know.
If you haven't guessed already, my guest today is Russell Crowe. Not a Russell Crowe impersonator, which we probably be
have
able
many
to
of in this building.
Merrick's been doing his Russell Crowe voice for all this week.
I think I've done it to Russell too, without even thinking about it. Just going, yeah, that's right. Just drop down a couple of octaves and then go, mate, you don't have the avocados for it. Stop it. Russell Crowe is with me. We're going to talk more about film and your music as well next, Russ. Joined this afternoon by Russell Crowe, who's in the new film The Mummy. It's in cinemas June 8th. Get along and see it. It's a terrific film, as I've said to you, Rusty. You talk about working with Tom Cruise just a minute ago, and there is, I don't want to give too much away, but I don't think it's a plot destroyer. You have a fight scene. Who's coming off in the real world? Who's coming off well in that one? Because you both are pretty physically capable blokes.
He's really strong for his size. He's a little fella.
What, like Liam?
But
Liam or above Leprechaun?
No, about the same.
Okay, so just a little person.
I'll take that.
But he's very strong. He's extremely aerobically fit. You know, so he can do that stuff all day long.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So the great thing about it is, though, you know, he came and saw me about it at the beginning. He goes, "Are we doing this? You know, or are we going to give this over to the stunt guys?" And I'm like, "We should be doing this, man. It's you and me. It's our first time working together." He goes, "Great. That's exactly what I want." So he actually, I haven't been saying this in any of the interviews, but yesterday he sort of said it publicly in World Square here. He just told everybody what he did was gave the choreography of the fight over to me. I worked on it with the stunt coordinator, trying to take advantage of a series of skills, boxing stuff, martial arts stuff, a little bit of gymnastic stuff with, you know, jumps and stuff. And then basically, and they had the big ideas like the wire work and all that, you know. And then we just plugged Tom into it, He came into the rehearsals and we said, we're thinking about this, this, and this. And he was like, cool, let's do it,
Because it looks super genuine. You know what I mean?
Well,
It looks
what
like
we tried to do is have elements of it where it's, that close infighting and it's just about hand speed.
Yep.
And you got to be there. If you're not there, you're going to get smack in the head.
Did you get a bit twitchy, Russ? Because you look at me like this, just getting close. I'm just thinking, I don't want to be that close. I don't want to be that. Do you get like a little bit of like footy players get like a white line fever when you're in that moment? It's hard to pull punches. It's harder to pull them than it is to throw them, I reckon.
See, I come out of musical theatre, so
tough guy arena.
Well, dance routines are the basis of why I can achieve the stuff I can achieve in fight sequences, because it's all about choreography and remembering it and actually being able to commit fully to something without it actually, hurting anybody. Now, every now and then, you're gonna get whacked. I was doing a fight sequence with Keith David in The Nice Guys, and I've got a bump on my nose here. My nose is a bit flat there. But it used to be, before I did Nice Guys, it was flat there and the bump was on the other side. Keith David elbowed me in the noggin, just like at full speed. But, it is what it is.
He moved a bump.
Yeah, man.
Relocated your nose.
The crack was so loud that everybody around the monitors went and took their headphones off and went, what was that? But the thing is, in that moment, you kind of, okay, if you're going to swell up and blah, 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 it's like, let's keep shooting. Yeah. Because you want to get it, before you get too bruised up or whatever, So, every now and then, you might have a little bit of an accident, and some things are so close. There's a really cool moment in the fight scenes with me and Tom where he kicks me in the head, and it's so absolutely brutal,
Yeah.
Just the foot speed, the head turn, the blood against the window and all that sort of stuff. So, he's really good at it. So it's fun.
Yeah, you can trust him, obviously.
It's like dancing at that sort of level or whatever. It's just it's fun, and you get into the groove of it, But there was one moment where he gave me a little glint in the eye, and I was like, here he comes, Leprechaun. Yeah, here he comes, and off he went, and he went as hard as he could on the in tight fighting stuff. Yeah, and at the end of it, because I sort of caught everything, and at the end of it, he just turns to me and goes, fast hands for a big man.
Great, mate. It's an excellent fight scene. Russell Crowe is with me, if you haven't noticed. And that glint that you're talking about that you saw from Tom Cruise, I've just seen it from Russell Crowe. It's real. Yeah. There's a few people wondering, no, it's don't. He's doing it again. We might take a bit of a song. Russ, you sent a message to us the other day about this song, Rag and Bone Man. We'll chat about it next.
This whole album is fantastic. You should check it out, guys. It's a new groove. Familiar, but still fresh.
Joined this afternoon by Russell Crowe. Great to have you in the studios here, Russell. Your movie, The Mummy, is in cinemas June 8th. Get along and see it. I know you're very proud of it, and you should be, because it's bloody awesome. But another little project that you have always been involved in is music. You've got a new project, which is called Indoor Garden Party. Mm-hmm. It's a new band. How did this come about, and what's it all about? It's a slightly different take on putting together a band, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very much so. It's sort of the genesis of it is the songwriting partnership I formed with a guy called Alan Doyle, who's from Newfoundland in Canada. He, for 20 years, was in a band called Great Big Sea, and now he has another thing going called Alan Doyle and the Beautiful Gypsies. So we started writing songs together, principally for an album that he produced for me. Then I kept writing songs with him for his records in Canada. So I've got a couple of gold records for being a songwriter in Canada.
Really?
Because his band's pretty successful. And then out of that grew this other thing we did, which was basically just writing for the sake of writing, because we enjoyed the process together. So in my lifetime, I've never written any more songs with any other individual than I have with Alan. That's the same for him with me. But Indoor Garden Party stems from starting to do shows with him. Yeah. And then every now and then we'd bring in guests.
Yep.
And then over time, those guests have become part of what we really do. So the band is actually 4 singers, who are all instrumentalists as well, but 4 singers and a producer. So it's myself, I live in Sydney. Yep. A guy called Scott Grimes lives in Los Angeles. Alan Doyle lives in Newfoundland. Samantha Barks lives in London. And Carl Falk lives in Stockholm. So rehearsals are a bitch.
But with technology,
Carl's credits, like he's the producer of the first two One Direction albums, Nicki Minaj, Ellie Goulding, and he's a multi-instrumentalist, plays 23 instruments. So as Alan Doyle says, he has to actually physically, like for real, sleep in the studio with Carl, or Carl will replace his stuff. Because Carl can arguably play it better.
So what instruments are you playing there, Russell? 'Cause, tell me straight away that you're not playing the trombone, because otherwise people are going to Google rusty trombone and it's not going to be a good event. What
He's been waiting all show to get that one out.
All lifetime to get that one.
Right.
Now, what musical instruments are you playing on it?
I'm pretty sure that Carl's replaced anything that I play,
Right.
so I can't
So
make
he tells
claim,
you, he goes,
you know?
no, this is definitely you playing the acoustic guitar.
But
I mean,
he just does. He likes things to be perfect,
all right, well, listen, I've got a few grabs from the indoor garden party now from different songs. This is we'll just talk them through as we listen to them. This is Everything I Touch with you on vocals. That's not Russell.
No, that's
What's that?
That's Scott
Let's play the
Grimes
wrong
singing
Brad.
Everything That's You, which is a beautiful song. And that's the thing, the way this album runs, you go from song to song and the vocalist changes. So it plays more like a playlist than an album.
Okay, is that and that's obviously quite a deliberate thing, isn't it? That you've decided to create it that way.
Yeah, I mean that's how the shows go.
Right.
The shows are very much like in a style, like in a kind of a Rat Pack style. Where you have all these monsters on stage and everybody takes a turn.
Yeah, and they step forward, have a go, step back.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're singing in duets. And sometimes what is
You've
going
just
on?
got the no buzzer to your
no idea where that's
to an
coming
anecdote.
through.
You better fix that, Liam. Let's have a listen to Should Have Got to Know You. Can talk us through this.
There's gonna be a night you'll see when your hand will start to reach for me, and you'll dream my face 1,000 times asleep.
Okay.
So that's Samantha Barks. I met Samantha on the set of Les Miserables. She sang the role of Eponine. And, as I was saying, just at one point in time there, she was a guest for a couple of shows, and then now she's part of what we do. So she has an amazing voice, and she's an incredibly beautiful girl. And sometimes she even does the concerts in bare feet, which is, I always find quite alluring.
Okay, let's not go into details there. Russ, another one of the songs that I found on the album, which is it's soon to be released, isn't it? It's not actually all the songs have been released.
There's an iTunes pre-order thing that you can do at the moment. If you do the pre-order, you get the first 4 songs straight away.
But can I ask you, Russ, are you doing sea shanties now? Because we've got a little bit of a track here. Fight Another Day.
I guess we'll stay through dark till summer comes again. Hooray, we will fight another day. Hooray, we'll fight another day.
Well, that's Alan Doyle.
Yep.
And I believe that is the only Viking Celtic song that it's a genre of one. But as we played that song once to this German guy from the record company BMG, and after the song finished, he said, "Where this song is played, there should be beer drinking."
It's a
good beer
when we
drinking
listened to it
song.
before, it's just like you're just up on your feet. You don't know what to do. Maybe that's what we're doing. We're looking around for steins of beer to drink, and there was none here. We'll soon remedy that. And there is another song, Russ.
So there's actually funnily enough, like a sort of serious thing to that song was a note I wrote to myself about a little interesting thing I'd found out about the Vikings holding the city of Paris to siege. And so it started off as something sort of like a historical note that I might write a script about at some point in the future, and it became a song.
And then turned that into you. So you wrote the lyrics, and then the other guys kind of help work with the instrumentation of it.
That's my principal job in this group of people is as the lyricist. But quite often the lyrics come with a sort of a basic spine of a song as well. But, on the album I'm writing sometimes with Alan, sometimes with Scott Grimes, And Scott's had an incredible career too, man. Scott was, for 6 years, he was on ER. I mean, he was on Broadway at the age of 9. He was the first boy in the first production of the musical 9. He's toured with Bob Hope. He's toured with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson used to take him on tour with him, right? So he'd open up these concerts with this, the voice, what's that there's a place, whatever that song is,
Heal the World.
Yeah, is it? Right. Okay. So this little kid they'd hear the audience would hear this voice and assume it was Michael, and the lights would go up, and there would be this little ginger kid on the stage, and then Michael would come out, blah, 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 So he did that with Michael Jackson for years. He's just got an amazing voice, man.
And we've got a song we're going to play in full. This is the song is called "This Is How Life Is." Tell us about this song, Russ.
Well, this is my life advice song for my kids. I thought I'd get around to writing one day. I played it to them once, and little one was like, "Great song, Dad, thanks." And my eldest was like, "I have no idea what you're trying to tell me." But it is one of your stronger compositions.
This Is How Life Is from the new album, Indoor Garden Party, has released Russell Crowe, of course, singing vocals on there, or shared vocals, a bit of harmonies in there, a few different voices. Mm-hmm. Are you guys touring? You're such a busy guy, making films and doing everything that you do. How do you find time to get together as a band and perform? Well,
it is quite difficult. The last concerts we did were in 2014. We actually played in Coffs Harbour. And before that, we were in New York, and before that, Newfoundland and stuff like that. But there's always a cycle of time. This year, we're doing concerts in London, Leeds, and Dublin. London on the 28th of September, Leeds on the 29th, and then Dublin on October 1st. The album's called The Musical. The band's called Indoor Garden Party. If you go to my Twitter feed, you can find a pre-order link for the record.
And Russ, when you go up on stage, do you get nerves before you step out to perform live?
Yeah, but I get nerves before action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still get the butterflies in your stomach, even though you're so familiar with it. What is more daunting? Going to shoot a scene where there's so much time and effort and money is literally just burning as it's rolling, or is it in front of people where you can see their faces?
I get it with both, man, and I always have considered that sort of vibe that comes on, those nerves, the butterflies or whatever. It's really, and this is what I tell young actors all the time, you get that because inherently you want to do your best.
Yeah.
And that's why you get that feeling. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's actually something to enjoy, And I think if I was in a place where I was doing a show or whatever and I didn't feel that's probably the time you should stop doing it.
Yeah.
If you don't care, if you don't deeply care, then, perhaps you should go and do something else.
You should always feel it, shouldn't you? Should always be visceral. If money's not an issue, if you could only do one thing, you had to choose between music and acting at this stage in your life.
It's a funny thing, because the days that are filled with music are always so joyful. And part of that has got to do with the people that I do it with, but also it's such a personal, intimate expression, like, for example, when I was on the set of Les Mis, and Hugh had the same feeling, to combine the two things, the way we were doing, and the responsibilities that we had, and the fact that we were singing every day and singing together, and, they also like getting together on the weekends and having a bit of a sing-song and whatever, it was all just... It was a fantastic job. It was a great feeling going to that set every day. Daunting and challenging and, way out of my comfort zone, but it was great.
When you are doing something like Les Mis, where it's, you're doing a musical, who, when you kind of stop down, who comes out and talks to you first? The singing coach or the people who are in charge of that musical aspect, or the director? And what are you kind of focusing on when you're trying to do simultaneously two things at once, which is sing the best you can and also to act a part?
Yeah. It's always the director. Film is the director's medium, But then you add on to that, right, the fact that, for example, I'm seeing stars while walking on the ledge of a building on the roof, Now, it wasn't, an actual building. It was a set, but I'm still 20-something meters up in the air, while wearing a period military uniform that includes 3 starched collars. Beauty. And Tom also decided to shoot with anamorphic lenses, not zooms. So that means if he wants a big close-up, then the camera
has to come right in.
8mm is right in front
right
of your
face.
So just walk along the ledge, right? Try to avoid not, hitting the camera, and have a bit of a sing, would you?
Yeah, and women often say that we can't multitask, but clearly
Absolutely.
it can be done. Russell Crowe, it's been a pleasure to have you in the studios, mate. I'll let you go now. I know that you've got more important things to do than be here. So does everyone. But your new album, the album is called
The musical.
The Musical by Indoor Garden Party, and it is now available on a iTunes pre-order, so you can get the first 4 songs instantly. So if you go to iTunes, you can download that now. And of course, your film The Mummy is in cinemas June 8th. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Cool. It's been great to come and